What kind of a fool do you take me for? You're I'm in. Are there any other I should know about? As an enjoyer of Okay, I promise, the joke's done. As an enjoyer of Invincible, Season 3, Episode 6 is a doozy. Not in the sense that it bored me to death like Episode 5, but in the fact that it's probably one of, if not the saddest episode of Invincible that still doesn't take itself fully seriously.
Thousands of people murdered!
But that's not inherently a bad thing, because having just the right amount of sweetness with a dash of the excellent Aaron Paul, we brew up an episode filled with regret, loss, depression, and a psychological question that really tests the audience's beliefs about our show's hero. And please, cry me a river in the comments about the animation in the show, but no matter what your stance on that is, Invincible's story and characters are nothing less than a work of art with the right amount of modesty and tragedy. Now, tragedy is a word we will be exploring today, tonight, this morning, or whatever time it is for you, due to its importance on the writing of Powerplex, aka Scott Duvall. And yes, dear viewer, I know Invincible is not over, and we obviously don't have Powerplex's whole story due to the implications of the ending of the episode, but as the post-credits scene reveals, it seems that Powerplex's arc has ended this season with the possibility of returning in the near future. By the time the episode concluded for me, I knew that my love for Invincible couldn't wait to be shared with my community until 2 weeks pass, and also literally nothing else is out besides Severance, which I'm saving for its own video because that show is phenomenal. But to get back on track, this video will be about how it teaches us how to write a tragic villain. Okay, says you, I'm sure you'll explain, but how's he a tragic villain if he thrives off of pain? Good rhyme, and yes, there's an answer to that. But I just want to make this clear that if any of you out there bombard my comments with, actually in the comics, trust me bud, I will Omni-Man all over you if you ask that. And if you don't like, comment, and subscribe, because then you're just wasting everyone's time. But with that totally real and logically correct threat out of the way, the first time we actually get a piece of Scott's story is actually during the final episode of Season 1. Without knowing this at the time, unless you read the comics, a woman named Jessica and her daughter Gretchen are sadly killed in the carnage of Invincible's resistance to his dad. Turns out these two people were actually related to Scott, who had to watch as their building collapsed and see Mark hold the hand of the once full person. When it comes to a tragic villain, these characters usually have a moment where their life changes for the worst, and in Scott's case, these two deaths are the cause of his tragic chapter to begin. Filled with the desperation to hold Invincible accountable, he doesn't go full villain just yet, as he asks for help to get the government involved in this, but when declined, he realizes the one person that he can rely on to stop his pain is himself. Interestingly enough, Scott has power in the GDA, but steals a device that generates tons of electricity, which he applies to his body and then goes "sing with me" right off a building to activate his power. Now let's take a pause right there and analyze what has happened. Scott's turn to become Powerplex starts with these two deaths, but in the search of justice, he finds nothing anyone else can give. A reliance on a tragic villain's self is something that's pretty crucial to creating one. Sure, he has his right-hand wife, but he's the one at the center of the plan. He tried to advocate, but the only thing he got back was rejection, only putting more salt in his sister's torn-off arm. His helplessness is something that changes who he was before, allowing for that tragedy to shape his personality and beliefs, believing that the only way to get justice is to kill or at least harm Invincible, to show him what his actions can actually cause. After a failed attempt of riling Invincible up, Sonic the Shapesmith comes out of the blue, get it, to fight him, but after playing him for too long, Powerplex obliterates him and runs away. Feeling defensive over his energy outburst, the dynamic duo and their kid decide that they'll return on the anniversary of the Chicago attack. Now, what I appreciate about this scene is how defensive he gets after defeating Shapesmith. He starts openly saying that Shapesmith came onto him first and he's the reason more damage was caused. Based on this interaction, we can see that Powerplex does not understand the consequences of proving his point. His heart is in the right place, but he's unable to control himself and his newly enhanced powers nor his mental state. This makes the situation even more tragic because the audience starts to really see him start taking things too far, even if his message has a reason to be heard. The next we see of him is with his battle with Adam Eve. Once again trying to strike more of an emotional chord, he invades the memorial and lists out names of people who died, demanding for Invincible to show himself. Although not about Powerplex, Mark and Eve play this really smartly by not giving in with what he says and what he wants, and tries to de-escalate more of the attacks he might cause later. He loses to Eve after she realizes he gets more powerful each time he's hurt and traps him for the GDA to take away, but Powerplex still escapes and returns home. At home, he gets more desperate as he yearns for the battle he's been fighting other people for. With only one clear goal in his mind, he loses it and hatches the idea to take a fake hostage situation with his wife and only child. Now at this point, Scott loses it. He's so desperate for justice that as his character progresses, he doesn't know that he's actually now just going for revenge. His judgment is clouded and his rage skyrockets, adding another layer of reflection on who Scott used to be compared to now. In a 50-minute episode, Scott goes from happy and fulfilled to sad and depressed to angered and vengeful. His tragic arc continues further down a spiral of anger that sets us up for the most tragic part of the episode. The final battle, and the thing Powerplex has wanted, finally comes full circle in a building that was impacted by the very disaster that killed Jessica Duvall and Gretchen Duvall. The standoff the episode has been building up to is Powerplex's breaking point. The mere sight of Invincible in front of him sets him off, but Invincible is too smart and refuses to fight back. But after no stop, Invincible is forced to hit him back so he can save the hostages, but unknowingly, Scott's wife is in on this too and spits on him, which gives Powerplex the room to sweep in and use all of the momentum, that hard-hitting punch, to power up and try to fry Invincible. He uses all of his energy and weakens him, but in his fit of rage, the unthinkable happens. While Powerplex tried to kill Invincible, the electricity building up spread across the room and fried his wife and his child. He was so blinded that he dragged them into this, and if not the wife, then certainly the child, and electrified them to death, burning off their skin, resulting in 2 more gruesome and torturous deaths at the hands of him. With more rage than ever before, Invincible hugs him, resulting in his power diminishing and the day saved. The tragedy of Scott Duvall really shows an arc where he goes more insane with each attempt at doing something. It proves to the audience that vengeance and justice are 2 different things, and no matter how angry someone is, they need to look around and make sure they don't get anyone else involved that doesn't need to be. Sadly for Scott, he not only loses his sister and niece from the Chicago attack, but now he's lost his wife and infant kid at the hands of himself. He crafted his own path and burned everything he loved to the ground, leaving him with nothing but a false sense of purpose and hatred towards Invincible, because even after everything he's done, this madman, this monster, believes that Invincible killed his sister, Invincible killed his niece, Invincible killed all of those people in Chicago, Invincible killed his wife, and Invincible killed his kid. A tragedy powered by rage blinds him from knowing the truth about his own actions. Overall, I really like this episode. I like when Invincible can be silly and also mature at the same time. It's a good show that can ask a lot of psychological questions and also still be lighthearted at the same time. I can't wait for the rest of the season, and I can't wait for what comes next. By the way, I started memberships on YouTube, which means that a very lucky few have actually seen this video days before you all have, for the cost of 99 cents. If you want me to do more Invincible content in the future, please comment what you liked, hit the like button too, and subscribe to show your direct support. And hey, Amazon, if you want to possibly send me episodes early so I could prepare free advertisement for you and all of the people at Invincible HQ and other shows, then please, let's talk on my business email. With that said, thank you everybody for watching. Bye.